Okay, let's unpack this one. It's that question you hear all the time, right? Does believing you're good at something, like, actually make you better?
Or is it the other way around? You get good, then you believe it.
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into that, but specifically in, the classroom. Academic self-concept versus actual academic achievement.
Yeah, it's something lots of people wonder about.
Yeah.
You see confident students, less confident ones.
Yeah.
Why? We've sifted through a pile of research to get you the key insights.
Right. So before we get too far in, let's just quickly define our terms for this deep dive. Academic self-concept, that's basically your own view of your school abilities, how smart you think you are at math or writing or whatever.
hmm And academic achievement, that's more the measurable stuff, grades, test scores, that kind of thing.
So the mission today is figuring out how these two interact. Does doing well boost your confidence?
Or does the confidence come first and, like, drive the achievement?
Or maybe they just build on each other. That's what we want to get a handle on. We've looked at studies, including a recent review comparing different research methods, which is really helpful.
And researchers have had a few main theories about this over the years.
Okay, like what?
Well, there's the skill development idea. Achievement first, self-concept follows. Pretty straightforward.
Makes sense. You ace a test, you feel smarter.
Then there's the flip side, the self-enhancement model. Believing in yourself gives you that, edge to succeed.
Okay.
But the one that gets a lot of traction and feels kind of intuitive is the reciprocal effects model, or A for short.
Reciprocal, so like a loop?
Exactly, a feedback loop.
Mm.
Your beliefs affect your performance affects your beliefs, and back and forth.
That feels more like real life, maybe.
It does.
Yeah.
And for a long time, researchers tried to map this out using something called cross-lag panel models, CLPMs.
CLPMs, right. So they track people over time, see what changes first.
That's the basic idea. You measure self-concept and achievement at one point, then again later, and see if earlier self-concept predicts later achievement and vice versa. They were kind of the gold standard for a bit.
So what did these CLPM studies generally find? Did they back up that reciprocal idea?
Largely, yes. Big reviews of these studies, like one by Huang in 2011 and another by Wu and colleagues more recently, found correlations going both ways.
Okay.
So higher self-concept seemed linked to later gains in achievement, and better achievement seemed linked to later boosts in self-concept. The numbers showed these connections.
Interesting. Were the links equally strong in both directions?
Sometimes one was a bit stronger than the other, depending on the study, but the reciprocal pattern was pretty common. And Wu's review had a fascinating point about grades versus standardized tests.
Ooh, what was that?
They suggested self-concept might be more strongly tied to grades.
Grades. Why grades specifically?
Well, their thinking was that grades often feel higher stakes,
Sure.
right? They impact your next steps, maybe require more sustained motivation. So your belief in yourself could play a bigger role there.
Ah, okay. Whereas a standardized test might feel lower stakes, less direct feedback, perhaps.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe less influenced by your immediate self-concept. It's a plausible idea.
that makes sense. And it wasn't just about grades versus tests. There was also something about comparing different subjects. You mentioned Meller's work.
Yes. Dimensional comparisons. That's another layer.
Yeah.
How you feel about, say, math versus English.
Right.
Miller and colleagues found positive links between self-concept and achievement when subjects were similar, like math and science. Makes sense.
Uh-huh.
But they found negative links sometimes between dissimilar subjects, like maybe feeling really good about math could be linked to slightly lower performance in English, or vice versa. It shows our self-concepts are pretty domain-specific.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just one big I'm smart feeling. It's more nuanced.
Definitely. Which brings us back to the methods. CLPMs were popular, but then the questions started.
Right. People started looking closer at the CLPM method itself.
Exactly. Methodological researchers began asking, hold on, can we really say this causes that based just on these CLPM results?
What was the main worry?
It boils down to the assumptions you have to make to claim causality.
Mm.
Usami and others argued in 2019 that these assumptions might be, well, a bit unrealistic in messy real-world settings.
Okay, assumptions. What kind are we talking about? This sounds important.
It is. Think about it in terms of potential outcomes.
Yeah.
To say your study method caused a better grade, ideally you'd need to know what grade you would have gotten without using it at the exact same time.
Which is impossible, right? You only live one reality.
Precisely. That's the core challenge of causal inference. So CLPMs try to estimate these effects, but they rely on some big ifs.
Like what? What are the key assumptions?
Usami, and also Ludka and Robich, highlighted three main ones for CLPMs. First, consistency. Basically, making sure we're measuring self-concept and achievement the same way for everyone so the comparison is fair.
Okay, consistent measurement. Makes sense. What's next?
Second, and this is a big one, strong ignorability. Or, put simply, no unobserved confounders.
No unobserved confounders. What does that mean?
It means we have to assume we've measured and controlled for everything else that might influence both self-concept and achievement. Hidden factors.
Wow, everything else. That sounds difficult, like home life, natural talent, motivation.
Exactly. All those things. If there are important confounders we haven't measured, the link we see between self-concept and achievement might be misleading. It might be caused by this third thing we didn't account for.
Okay, that's a major hurdle. What's the third assumption?
Positivity. This just means there needs to be enough variation in the data. People need to have a chance of having different levels of self-concept and achievement across different levels of any factors we are controlling for. We need enough variety to make comparisons meaningful.
So consistency, no hidden confounders, and enough variety if those don't hold.
Then interpreting CLPM results as strictly causal becomes problematic.
Right, which led researchers to think about other ways to model this.
Yep. Interstructural causal models.
Okay, structural causal models. How do they help?
Think of them like drawing a map of how you think things are causally related. Arrows showing influence. The review we looked at discussed three main structures based on the literature.
Let's visualize them. Model A.
Simplest one. Prior self-concept predicts later achievement. Prior achievement predicts later self-concept. Just those direct back-and-forth arrows.
But as we just said, that ignores all the other stuff, right? The confounders.
Exactly. Very restrictive assumption. Likely too simple for reality.
Okay, model B.
That adds lag 2 effects. The full forward model. It allows things from further back, say, 2 time points ago, to still have an influence.
So like 5th grade math confidence still affecting 7th grade performance, even accounting for 6th grade.
Sort of, yeah. It acknowledges longer-term carryover, more complex, a bit more realistic perhaps.
That still doesn't explicitly include those outside factors.
Not necessarily in its basic form, which leads to Model C.
Which does include them.
Right. This one adds potential confounders into the map. Things like socioeconomic status, gender, prior ability, motivation, whatever might be relevant. It explicitly shows these other factors potentially influencing both self-concept and achievement.
That one sounds the most plausible, like it reflects the real world better.
It's generally considered the most realistic starting point, yes, acknowledging the complexity.
So these models help visualize the theory, but how do you test them statistically, especially dealing with those confounders?
Great question. That's where newer statistical techniques come in, designed specifically to tackle some of the CLPM limitations.
Okay, what are these newer methods?
One important one is the Random Intercept Cross-Lagged Panel Model, RICLPM.
RICLPM. What's the random intercept part about?
It tries to separate out stable differences between people from the changes happening within a single person over time. That intercept represents the stable between-person differences.
Ah, so it tries to account for the fact that some people just generally have higher self-concept or achievement than others.
Precisely. By separating that out, it hopes to control for any time-invariant unobserved confounders, those hidden factors that stay constant for an individual over the study period. It focuses on whether deviations from your own average predict future deviations.
Interesting. So it's looking more at individual change trajectories.
That's the idea, yeah. Focusing on within-person associations.
Okay, what else? You mentioned a full forward model earlier, too.
Yes, the FFCLPM. That's the one including those lag 2 effects. Some argue it's valuable when those longer-term effects are real. And interestingly, standard ways of checking how well a model fits the data might not always distinguish it clearly from the RICLPM. So model choice isn't always straightforward.
Right, not just about the fit statistics.
And then there's a whole different approach. Weighting methods, like entropy balancing, EB, or covariate balanced generalized propensity score, CBGPS.
Oh, weighting.
Okay.
How does that work? Sounds different.
It is. Instead of putting confounders directly in the model, like in Model C, these methods work in steps. First, they model the relationship between all the measured covariates, the potential confounders, and the treatment variable, which here would be either self-concept or achievement at a given time point.
Okay.
Then they calculate weights for each person, so that after applying the weights, the groups with different levels of treatment look, on average, identical on all those measured covariates.
So it's like statistically creating groups that started out the same, even though they weren't? Like mimicking randomization?
That's the goal, exactly. Achieve covariate balance. Then you estimate the effect of self-concept on achievement, or vice versa, in this weighted, balanced sample. A key advantage is they can handle many covariates simultaneously.
That sounds powerful for dealing with confounders.
It can be, yes, though choosing which covariates to balance is still crucial.
So many different approaches. What happens when you actually use them on the same data?
That's exactly what the researchers did in the study featured in the review. They used data from the TRAIN study in Germany.
Train study, large sample.
Yep. Over 3,700 students followed longitudinally through lower secondary school. They measured math self-concept, standardized math test scores, math grades, and crucially, a rich set of potential confounders.
Like what?
Things like socioeconomic status, gender, prior achievement in math and verbal domains, cognitive abilities, motivation, personality traits, lots of stuff.
Wow, okay. Rich data indeed. So they ran all the models, CLPM, FF, CLPM, RI, CLPM, and the weeding methods.
They did. They handled missing data carefully using multiple imputation, then specified and ran the different cross-lagged models, both with and without the covariates included, and applied the EB and CBGPS weighting techniques.
Okay, the moment of truth. What did they find? Did the methods agree?
Well, the traditional CLPM and the FF-CLPM, especially when covariates were included, generally supported the reciprocal effects model, particularly between math self-concept and math grades.
So feeling better about math seemed to lead to better grades, and getting better grades seemed to boost math self-concept. That feedback loop again.
Exactly. The coefficients pointed that way.
But what about the RICLPM, the one focusing on within-person change?
That one showed less consistent results. Fewer statistically significant cross-lagged effects between changes in self-concept and changes in achievement within individuals.
So the way you look at it between people versus within people really matters.
It seems so. The interpretation is different. RICLPM is about deviations from your personal average, while the others are more about comparing you to others, or to a statistically balanced version of others.
Okay. And the weighting methods, EB and CBGPS?
They also generally supported the reciprocal effects model, again, particularly between self-concept and grades, especially after achieving good covariate balance. Entropy balancing, in particular, got near-perfect balance on the covariates. The estimated effects were statistically significant.
So another vote for the self-concept grades loop. What about self-concept and the standardized tests?
The findings from weighting were less consistent. Depending on the grade level group, the results sometimes suggested self-enhancement, self-concept affecting test scores,
Yeah.
and sometimes skill development, test scores affecting self-concept. Not as clear-cut as with grades.
Interesting. So maybe that distinction Wu et al. Made about grades being higher stakes holds some water.
It certainly seems plausible based on these findings. The relationship might function differently for different types of achievement outcomes.
What happened when they added the covariates directly into the CLPM, FF-CLPM, and RI-CLPM models? Did it drastically change the results?
It generally resulted in only small changes to the key cross-lagged coefficients, the arrows between self-concept and achievement.
Oh, okay.
But interestingly, adding covariates often had a larger impact on the stability coefficients, how much self-concept or achievement at one time point predicts itself at the next time point.
What does that suggest?
It might mean that those covariates are more strongly related to the stable overall levels of self-concept and achievement rather than the specific cross-lagged influences between them over time.
Got it. Did they worry about measurement error, like how accurately they measured self-concept?
They did check for that using some robustness analyses. The conclusion was that potential measurement error in the self-concept measure likely had minimal impact on the overall pattern of findings.
Okay, so pulling this all together.
Yeah.
What are the big implications here? What should we take away?
Well, theoretically, it reinforces the caution about interpreting traditional CLPMs causally if you haven't accounted for confounders.
Yeah.
The strong ignorability assumption is tough, but the good news is including covariates in these models is relatively straightforward.
And practically. For educators, students, parents.
The practical finding seems pretty robust. Despite all the methodological debates, most approaches CLPM with covariates, FF-CLPM with covariates, weighting methods pointed towards that reciprocal relationship between academic self-concept and grades.
So believing in yourself likely helps your grades, and getting good grades likely helps you believe in yourself. That cycle seems real.
It appears to be a fairly solid finding, yes, which is useful information.
But we need to remember the RI-CLPM result was different.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And that highlights the ongoing debate. Are we more interested in these within-person dynamics, how your confidence fluctuates with your performance, or the between-person effects, how people with higher confidence tend to perform relative to others?
Mm.
The interpretation differs.
And the weighting methods, strengths and weaknesses.
Strengths are definitely their ability to handle lots of confounders explicitly and aim for balance. Challenges include needing to correctly identify and measure those confounders in the first place, and they can also be sensitive to measurement error in the covariates themselves.
So no single method is perfect.
Not yet, anyway. It seems like using multiple methods and seeing where they converge, like in this study, is probably a wise approach.
What about looking ahead? Where does research go from here?
Well, exploring those full-forward models more, maybe models that explicitly incorporate change over time, like dynamic structural equation models, DSMs, could give us even richer insights, especially into individual trajectories.
Trying to capture even more nuance.
Exactly. And we definitely need more research, maybe simulation studies, to really pin down under which conditions each of these different statistical models gives the most accurate estimate of the true causal effects. The methodological discussion is far from over.
Okay, so for everyone listening, wrapping up this deep dive, the big takeaway seems to be that the connection between believing in your academic skills and actually achieving, well, it's complicated, but it likely works both ways.
Especially when we're talking about grades, that reciprocal loop seems pretty well supported across different, quite sophisticated methods once you try to account for other factors.
Right. But it's also crucial to remember that how researchers study this affects what they find. Different methods have different assumptions and focus on slightly different questions like within-person change versus between-person comparison.
Absolutely critical to keep in mind.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. Knowing this, knowing that confidence and skill likely feed each other, how could you consciously try to build both in areas you care about?
Yeah, thinking about how you can work on your skills while also maybe nurturing your belief in your ability to improve. Understanding that progress in one can potentially spark progress in the other.
And maybe reflecting on what kind of feedback really fuels that cycle for you. Is it grades? Is it seeing tangible progress? Something else? Perhaps looking into ideas like self-efficacy or growth mindset could be interesting next steps too.
Excellent points to ponder. It really brings the research back to personal experience.
Well, thanks for digging deep into this complex topic with us today.
My pleasure. Fascinating stuff.
Until next time.